4. All right, we're ready to go. Welcome to the Rye Town Park Commission meeting of February 16th, 2016. Please, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance first. Please rise and join me for the pledge. Mayor Sack, would you lead us tonight?
I will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Gary Zuckerman,
Here.
Joseph Sack,
Here.
Dennis Pilla, Paul Rosenberg, Benedict Salanitro,
Here.
Julie Killian.
All of those absences are excused. We were called in advance that they would not be able to make it. May I have has everybody read the minutes from January 19th? If so, may I have a motion and a second?
Do we need a quorum?
Do we need 4 votes? We need 4 votes. We can't do that. Okay. We cannot have any votes this evening unless somebody miraculously shows up. Comments from the public? Do we have any comments from the public? If not, park management report?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Basically, the overview is pretty similar to the one I gave last month. The park's been closed. This time the weather was pretty cold, but there still were people that were walking through the park, so we always have to be aware of that. We're working with the new Chief of Staff, Debbie Reisner, to make a smooth transition preparation for the 2016 Park Beach season. John Zicka is doing his regular cleanup operations, and one of the things that Bill Lawyer coordinated was that they don't damage the flower beds that are at the end of Dearborn Avenue and Forest Avenue, because there was some concern when they plowed the snow that they might have destroyed some of those flower beds. The pond maintenance fee was a little higher. I understand that Bishop and Bill got them to lower it to equal last year's. That's the pond connection. There are consultants, and they work with us on the pond. And the only way it'll be increased is if we need their attention more than we did last year. Parking and security. Bill put together a no smoking rule or law. I guess it's a rule, and you guys should have it in your packet. It's not in the packet yet. So it's a second draft. Yeah, which basically is taking up the vote that the commission made in reference to no smoking in the park. Bill spoke with Ken Puccia from Playland to find out how they handle their no smoking. Basically, they leave it up to the people, from what I could see. The smokers there have access to benches in permitted areas. It's also permitted in their parking lot. Park does not provide cigarette butt receptacles, which is one of the things that we're going to provide in our parking lot, pending your approval of what we're going to do. City of Rye updated all its website information about the revised leash law, and finances. Bill and myself sat down with Is that the one we're still waiting? No, we're waiting for complete financial park operations. But on personnel, Bill and I sat down with Ms. Reisner and discussed operations manual, personnel, job descriptions, orientation procedures, and the code of conduct and ethics documents. Bill had further discussed with Debbie Basasia about regarding the proposed stand-up paddle fundraiser. And the point is they're trying to get a date that would agree with both, with us and them. Yes, if you'd like.
Come on up, Bill.
1 second.
Well, it's good news and bad news. The good news is that they're all excited to do the stand-up paddle benefit for cancer research. Unfortunately, their goal is to get over 1,000 participants, and they concluded that Rye-Town Park would not be big enough for them to do that, so they're going to Jones Beach instead. So that's where that is at this point. Okay, yeah. And if there's, let's see. Yeah, we have this committee which I've mentioned at the commission meetings over the last year or so when it was first started, representatives from Rye-Town Park, from the Children's Museum, the Historical Society, and Edith Reed Sanctuary. Have been working together to try to come up with some programs and activities that would highlight the environmental and cultural values of that whole area between Rye-Town Park at Dearborn Avenue and all the way up to the end on of Edith Reed Sanctuary. So, and we're also working with Save the Sound on that too. So nothing concrete has come of it other than the fact that I put together the Rye-Town Park portion of a guided walk to the beach area along the path that goes from Rye-Town Park over to Playland, and that you can see on our website. Let's see. I think some of this you'll be here. I'm not sure if we're going to be hearing about the RFQs or not. That will come up, so I won't go into that now. And let's see. Yeah, it's come up in the discussion with the Friends of Rye-Town Park and also the Rye-Town Park Advisory Committee, which is a committee of the City of Rye, that they've liked having these community conversation meetings in the spring at the park so that the Rye residents, who are very major stakeholders in the operation of the park, have a chance to interact with the park staff and find out what's going on. So we would recommend that we look into a date in either April or early May before the season starts to go over what's going on, what's new. And
Talking to the microphone, Fred.
The other people that attend that community conversation are the commissioners and Rye-Town Board members if they like. We generally notify everybody.
Excuse me, are there facilities there to,
the pavilions.
are there facilities to televise and record much as this
Yes.
meeting is?
Well,
we
we
have
would do it through
facilities to
City
do
of
that?
Rye TV. They
Rye
could do
City
it.
TV could do that,
Yeah,
okay.
we would just have to let them know in advance. But they've done a lot of programs at the park, so they're
Okay, that's great.
they could
Good.
definitely do that. Let's
Well,
see.
I'll talk to the mayor about it.
Well, we should get that on the calendar, though, at the next
Yeah,
meeting when everyone's here,
absolutely,
because
sure.
things start to,
Yeah.
weekends start to get booked.
Let's see. Oh, and the other thing is that over the winter, as Fred says, we don't have anything really active going on, but a lot of people use the park. Kids who go sledding in the park, people with cross-country skis. People still like to stop by and watch the ducks in the pond. And I'm also getting a number of calls that are either coming to me or through the town offices of groups. And I saw that you have this thing on your agenda for the town of a scout troop that wants to do something. We got several calls from the, I think they're called Daisies, which are the real young Girl Scouts, and there's Boy Scout projects, and Midland School kids are looking for volunteer activities. So I feel very good that we have this interest in wanting to do something with the park, and we're doing everything we can to try to accommodate them one way or the other, either through ourselves or through the Friends of Rye-Town Park. unless there's any questions.
Bill, the only question I had was going back to the maintenance on the pond. In years past, if I recall correctly, the Friends of the Park were very involved in seeing that those measures were, partially supported by their group.
Yeah. Well, they put
going
all
on
their
with that?
money into the trees the last couple of years. So, I mean, we're getting funds from them, but not, and
For
it's
this?
not for this. We're trying to hold the line, and some of the work is done by our own staff, but after several years of trying to manage it in-house, we found that the only really way to do it was this Pond Lake Connection is a company that manages ponds all over Westchester
No, I
County.
get it, I see that.
And so anyway, the money that they had put in fact, it was the Friends who really did the pond project in
Yes.
the first place back in the early 2000s. In 2004, they had gotten a large grant from the state of New York to try to remove the nutrients from the pond water before it gets out into the sound to help fight against hypoxia.
And I don't want you to speak on behalf of the Friends, but I don't think anybody's here from the Friends of the Park.
Oh.
But we should probably coordinate
Yep.
some of these projects because they do involve resources, funding resources that in the past they had been kind enough to, fundraise in many forms and
Yes.
support. And we all, obviously the Wright Town Park Commission supports all of the other things that need to be done as well. But I just wanted to get a sense from the Friends, maybe at the next meeting, where their fundraising stands and how, or
Yeah,
if
well,
they-
the feedback that I've gotten from Linda Wells so far is that they are basically just focusing on the trees.
Trees.
They've actually pulled back on sponsoring the outdoor movie. We've got a grant
no.
to cover the outdoor movie, so we are still going to have an outdoor movie, but it will not be funded by Friends of Wright Town
What about
Park.
the benches?
Well, they still
Again, I
have,
don't want you to speak on behalf of the Friends, but we,
as far as I know, they're still taking responsibility for that project.
We can have them come to a meeting and make a presentation, or we could have a work session with them at some point and say, hey, who's doing what? What is your program for the park for the upcoming year? And what is the commission's responsibility for it? We don't want something to slip through. Somebody has, of all the things that have to be done, somebody's going to be doing it, so we have to make sure we know who's doing what.
Yeah, well, I've been doing that, informally with the Friends of Wright Town Park. So, as I say, I've been getting feedback from them that their numbers are dwindling, and they really want to just focus in on the tree projects, and I guess the benches too, because I'm not sure where we stand with that, but they had raised money through contributions to put in new benches, and I think we did 7. Is that right?
and the commission also put money into that as well. So in other words, we didn't we had it in our capital plan, $7,500. You pulled it out? All right, well, anyway, so that, I guess to be continued, Mr. President?
Yeah, I'll try to get in touch with Linda. Well, I will get in touch with Linda again and tell her that they would be interested in having either at a commission meeting or, like you said, a work session where we could get together.
Let me make a statement about that. My view of it, and it may be different from the other commissioners' view, I'm the new guy. It's ultimately the responsibility of the commission to operate the park, not the Friends. And the Friends are an adjunct and a help and a volunteer organization that we should honor whatever they do, but not necessarily expect them to take on the task of operating the park or contributing benches or things. Those are good things, and we should have them. And if they're willing to do that, I think it's wonderful. But when it comes to operating the park, it's the commission's responsibility to do that. So,
Yes, I think that's true of it. And the other thing that they have done is, and it came up in Fred's report, was that they paid to have an outside gardening company come in and put in that flower bed at the corner of Dearborn and Forest Avenue. And they also have hired lawn service, grounds people to come in and do the other flower beds around the park. And as far as I know, that's still continuing also.
but I think that's a wonderful thing. Anybody else?
Yes, Supervisor, if I may, I have one question and
Sure.
one comment. The question is with regard to the finances. rest in peace, Sam Terenzi is no longer with us, and he, I imagine, would have been the one to prepare the final audited financial statements for 2015. So since he's no longer with us, what is the plan to have those numbers finalized?
Well, Dave Burns, who's also works, is the comptroller for the town of Rye, and also does work for the commission, has temporarily at least taken on the burden. We are in the town seeking the services of a replacement accounting firm that will prepare the documents
Right.
for the year-end audit, and
So Sam,
And
Sam
everything else.
was the accountant for both the town and the town park.
that is correct.
But Sam did not perform those services for the town park under his agreement with the town. It was a separate agreement.
That's correct.
Okay, so we then probably do have to retain someone, whether it's the same person that you ultimately retain for the town as well, but this commission will have to take action to retain that person.
That is correct.
So, so I guess it's always been done that the town accountant is also the town park accountant. I don't,
Right.
I-
It doesn't
I guess
have
it
to be
doesn't
that
have to
way.
be that
It doesn't
way,
have to be that way.
But that being the case, I'm just wondering, and this is kind of the point of my question, what, if anything, do we as a commission need to be doing to seek out and retain someone new now that Sam is no longer with us?
Well, what the town is doing has been interviewing people, and I'm hopeful that we can have a decision by the end of the month. And in that case, I think that I would advise the commission retain such and such a person, and if that's acceptable to the commission, the commission can do its own interviewing, obviously, has the right to do that, or can interview that person and decide if that person is the one to continue, that person or firm
So
to
I
do the
wonder,
work.
did Sam give discounted rates because he did both jobs?
I never saw anything that said discount on it. He gave rates, and I think that his rates were, for the work he did, was
Well,
probably reasonable.
My point is, if there's an economy of scale, it might make it more likely that the commission would piggyback on what the town is doing. So maybe you could raise that as part of your own interview process, to just gauge the availability and willingness of
Yeah,
this
I think
person
that
you're talking
the main thrust of the person would be, obviously, as a town accountant, because that person is filtering a lot of money, accounting for, bookkeeping for a great deal of money through the town. The books are kept, I suppose, in a similar way for the commission, since the same person would be doing it.
Oh, good idea.
What's the time frame on that? Do you expect to have a decision?
I'm hoping that we can have a decision by the end of the month.
I would just like to say, I think it would be, just from my experiences of trying to get financial reports in a timely manner, that it would be worth at least considering having a separate accountant specifically for the Rye Town Park Commission. But as you say, I think at least the commission might want to interview, as you suggested they could, interview the person to clarify that, we have our own needs and our own time schedule as far as getting financial information for us to be able to make judgments in terms of how much money we have to spend. And Bishop knows that this is something that has been somewhat of a difficulty in terms of projecting, not having up-to-date figures. So
No, I think that the issues for the commission and the issues for the town are very similar.
Well, let's talk about it more next meeting,
Okay.
when everyone's here. But I did just want to raise it, because I wasn't really aware of how it would work, so that's a good thing to talk about.
Okay.
Second thing is, with regard to the cigarette butt receptacles. Now, so I found it interesting that the county of Westchester, the Playland Park, does not use them at all.
I was surprised.
And well, I don't know if I'm surprised or not, because,
Well,
so they've determined that it's not desirable and necessary for whatever reason, and quite frankly, there's always been smoking allowed at Rye Town Park everywhere, and we've never had them anywhere. So why, now that we're limiting smoking, would we for the first time bring in receptacles? And I don't know the answer, I'm just raising it, because it just seems to me that maybe they're unattractive, and maybe people wouldn't even use them, because, I'm not a smoker, but I would imagine that if people are by their car, they're gonna put it on the ground and stamp on it right where they're standing. And they're not gonna walk 30 feet or however far away they need to use it. So I raised it as a question, and
It's a good question, and there's another issue with those. People use those as not only smoking disposal places, but they see them there and they have a cup in their hand, they throw the cup
Yeah.
in it, and they use it for all kinds of trash that they shouldn't be using it for.
In answer to that question, Mayor, we do have receptacles on the beach. That was the only place we allowed it, at 3 different locations. And you can't put anything in there because the hole is that small, you know, and you just stick the butt in and it falls down into a bigger receptacle. But in reference to the Ride Town,
Playland.
Friends of Ride Town Park, they usually attend every meeting. This is unusual. There's no one here tonight. And before they do any project in the park, they always clear it with this board. And they work in conjunction with my employees there. So we've had a very good working relationship with them. So that's important that you know that.
Right.
I think, and I think that's true. I would say, actually, I would say it in the reverse way, which is, if there's something that we anticipate them doing that they're actually now not going to do, we ought to know about that too, because then maybe we need
Yes,
to find it.
absolutely.
So not that they're running the show, but that if they're not going to do something now,
Sure.
we may need to decide to put it in
They've been on
ourselves.
they've been on a recruitment program. Their numbers have dwindled to pretty small. So they've been trying to recruit. I understand they've gotten a couple or a few new players, but they've always been a good addition to the park.
Yeah, and I think from a talking point, we should probably do is, I don't know if Debbie can, maybe Bishop can help with this, is to get an idea of what the Friends' contributions were in the past year on the various projects, because if they're not going to contribute, then we have to then make the adjustment in the budget.
Absolutely.
So that's the talking point. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, no, I got you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. What we were speaking about before, the Pond Lake proposal. I spoke to Paul Noto about this, and he says that because we have been using them in the past, we do not need a new resolution to approve their contract. So let us consider this a bill that has been presented to us for services to be furnished in the coming year. And I don't know that we need a vote of the board for that, since we don't have a resolution.
So this is, the proposal is to use the same company this year that we've used in past years?
That is correct.
But the contract in past years has expired.
I don't know that it's actually been a contract. I think that we've agreed to them. I think that we had a resolution. At least that's what Mr. Noto explained. There was a resolution going back that hired them to provide these services, and the same services are apparently being provided for the same price for the coming year. So,
Okay, I mean, if that's advice of counsel, then that's advice of counsel. Do we have to put this out to bid? Did we put it out to bid?
You have a copy in your packet.
Okay.
Page 9 and 10.
Right, if I could just add, this was put out to bid a few years ago. I might be mistaken, at least 3-4 years ago. And we did look at a couple of other vendors at that time. So it was, the selection was made. Since then, I think everybody will agree, the Friends of Rye Town Park, as well as the people coming to the park, as well as the staff, that our service there has been very good. The pond has been maintained much better than it was when we were trying to do it ourselves. And I think the service has been effective, so.
All good stuff. I just want to make sure that we're doing what we need to do from a legal perspective.
Correct.
And if Paul says that we're okay, then we're okay.